Om. Namaste to all of you. We are having a very interesting topic today that pretty much all of us have experienced. Pretty much everyone here I have either interacted with you in one form or the other. So we have formed a small bond of friendship. With that in the background, let us look at what is friendship all about? What is the role model for good friendship? When we look at friendships all around us in our life, what do we see? When we are kids, we find like-minded children and we have a bond so that we can play games, socialize. That is what is understood as friendship. Then we grow up, we get into a circle based on our likes and dislikes. We call that also friendship. Then we go to office. We find a circle of people even within the office community, the one which resonates with us, we call them office friends. Though we may have our boundaries of what we discuss with them, we call all of them in one big bucket called friends. And then we look around and we see all sorts of friendships, people forming even in their later years, senior years. When they go to some retirement community or whatever, they form some friendships. But the common thread in all this friendship is trust. Trusting each other that they will not do any harm, trusting each other that something good will be the larger cause for that relationship to continue. On one end, if you go to YouTube and if you put like animal friends, like let's say unusual friends, like a elephant and a dog, or let's say like a cheetah and a dog, or maybe I saw one very recently with a lot of hits, an unusual friendship of a deer and a dog. And this goes back to like 10, 11 years. So this person is living behind the house in a short walk is a jungle in US, and this deer and dog have become friends. So every year when the deer has a little one, the deer would bring its little one to show it to its friend the dog, and it will introduce it not only to that dog but also to that entire family. And the deer would spend a lot of time trying to share its unique relationship. That's very heartwarming when you see such videos, like it's how can two things which usually one is the predator, one is the prey, how do they form a bond? And that is the special thing with friendship. The unique nature of friendship is it need not be between two like-minded people. It can be with totally unlike people, unlike not only people, like unlike species. That is very interesting if you really see, and this can really transcend to a different level. So, making friendship a very, very important relationship in all our lives. Now, who should be a good friend in our life? Unfortunately, we have reduced that relationship amongst humans as a butt of a joke. Yeah, I'm talking about husband and wife. When we get married, there is a ritual in our Hindu tradition. It's walking around the fire. It's called Saptapati. That's taking 7 steps around the fire. We'll see that Saptapati principle getting invoked in a couple of places later, but that Saptapati basically is taking 7 steps in front of fire, cements a bond of friendship. So, two strangers who didn't know anyone have become friends in front of Agni Bhagavan as the witness. But if you really look how sad most relationships between couples are, the average person, there is a honeymoon phase for that may last few months to maybe a year or maybe even few years for some people if you are lucky, and then their personality clashes start up. Meanwhile, they end up having a child or two. Then all the attention is there towards the child. And then when the child grows and becomes an adult and moves out of the house, as they become empty nesters, you find these two couple, especially if the husband or both of them retire, they find who is this strange person in the house I know nothing about, because they have lived in their own world. And that's exactly what is causing a lot of gray hair people divorce. You can see that in the Western world a lot. You see that whether it is gray hair like Bill Gates, whose odd things got exposed, or you can take hairless Jeff Bezos, go through a divorce too, because they never considered their spouse as their friend. Now, in these two cases, we know from media that the guy is predominantly the guilty party in this case, but that's not true in every case. It may be the lady in some cases. We are not starting a gender war here as to who causes more, but basically the point is the lack of friendship in marriages. So, who should have been your best friend is now just a joke. We say trade jokes, whether the husband jokes, wife jokes. My only request to all of you is please don't forward, and also tell the people who are forwarding such jokes to stop forwarding it to you. You can't make them stop forwarding to others, but at least tell them, if you forward husband wife jokes, I don't want this channel open. We are going to take a quick look at a couple of instances where in Ramayana and Mahabharata, and we will take some lessons from it and eventually ask the question, what is the real friend, or who is the real friend to us? So that is the question we need to ponder at the back of our head for this talk. So let us look at typically how friendships are. Most people misunderstand being friendly or loving or not being hostile as friendship. For example, uh, now we have relatively fast trains in India, but in maybe like 20, 30 years ago, 20 years ago, or something like that, or maybe even earlier, when people used to travel, say, from the south to north, say from Chennai to Delhi, or example, for example, it used to take like 2 days or something like that, and you are being cooped up in the train with some unknown person. So you form a bond of friendship, and this usually you can see that people getting down, seeing the what is it, like exchange their numbers, or maybe making promises that hey, we will stay in touch, and that's it. When they get down, when they get back to their life, that's the end of their that so-called friendship. We also look around people where friendship can be with negative characters too. We are going to look at that. We see even thieves and robbers and politicians and corrupt people also have friends in different places. So, how can we glorify that as a great friendship if two thieves are banding together? How does that make friendship great? So, it is important to understand that friendship should not be looked at from a romanticized idea, that we overlook all the flaws and just, you know what, I want to be a friend. If a friend does something wrong, do you have the real friendship to stand for what is right and tell them, hey, you should not go down the drain, should not go down the wrong path? Do we have that intellectual honesty and real friendship? So the understanding right now what we have is like, hey, this friendship will last, like Pakistan says about China, right? Their friendship with China is taller than Himalayas, sweeter than honey, deeper than the ocean. Sounds poetic, sounds nice, romantic idea. But when it comes to the real ground reality, China extorted repatriation for some of the people who got killed in the CPEC project. They said you better pay up for these people. Pakistan, who is already begging everyone for money, ended up paying that money. Can you imagine that? So that is called as not friendship. Pakistan would love to say that, but that is the genuine idea most of us also have when it comes to our own circle of friends. We are not critical. We don't think, where is this friendship? So if a person who is into drinking, they go around the drinking circuit, whether it is in a bar or at home, and they call all those people as friends. One time, one of my daughter's classmate, this couple invited us to their house, me and my wife, and when they offered us some food, we said like, sorry, I don't take any meat. Ah, that's fine. Then they said like, um, can we offer you something to drink? I said like, no, water is fine, something like that. And then they said like, don't you drink? And the lady literally, I mean, they're all from Indian origin only. The lady jaw literally dropped, and you guys don't even drink? I said, okay. I don't take it as an insult. That's your understanding. Yes, there are people like that. And then came the clincher. They started asking, "What are your hobbies? What kind of movies you see? Who are you fans for?" And we said, "We are fans for no one. We are just simple people living our life, just focused on doing some Atma Sadhana, and that's it." They said they literally got shocked. We couldn't wait to get out of their house, and they couldn't wait to kick us out of their house either. So, point here is, when the people with different ideologies come together in a forced situation, friendship cannot happen, especially if the value systems are going to be so different. So, what is the value system? And then, what is this issue that, hey, with my friend, I should not look at their flaw and ignore everything? What about that? So, there is a couple of, I'm gonna, what is it like, quote a couple of Tamil poems, and I will translate it for you, so don't worry, so that you understand what was told thousands of years ago. Both of them are at least 2000 to 2500 years old. Okay, so I'll first quote it and then I will tell the translation and then we'll go to that. You might have heard of this poet saint. Her name is called Avvayar. She was probably one of the greatest lady poets. She was probably one of the greatest saints, Tamil saints that Tamil Nadu ever produced. And her advice was very, very simple and practical. Let's see what she is saying. அற்ற குலத்தில் அருநீர் பறவை போல் உற்றுழி தீர்வர் உறவல்லர் அக்குலத்தில் கொட்டியும் ஆம்பலும் நெய்தலும் போலவே ஒட்டி உருவார் உறவு. What that means is, when there is a pond and if it is full of water, at that time all the water birds will be there. You see what, like a crane or heron and those sort of birds, water birds. But when the pond dries up, they all leave to another place. Likewise, sometimes relatives, many times friends, leave the person who is struck with poverty or some sort of disaster, and such relationship is not real relationship. Now, in the same pond, you will also find lot of water plants, like lilies, lotus and things like that. When the pond becomes full, they are also in full bloom, they are also smiling sort of with all their flowers. And when the pond dries up, they kind of die back along with the pond, and when the fresh water comes, they come back again. That is the quality of real friendship. Now that is a bit deep. Now Thiruvalluvar comes to our rescue, and he says, he gives a couple of, he has written many Thirukkurals, like 1330. In that he has written many, each one is categorized, each topic is 10 couplets. And he has dedicated many chapters on friends, what kind of friendship you should have, what kind of friends you should not have, what is the quality of friendship, things like that. In one, he says, முகநக நட்பது நட்பன்று நெஞ்சத்து அகநக நட்பதே நட்பு. Just because you have smile and laugh going around, that is not friendship. But real friendship is what you smile from the heart. You smile from the heart. What does that mean? That means your relationship is real deep. Then in another set of chapter, where he tells who you should hang out with and who you should not. This is an interesting one. This is nothing to do with friendship, but he says, how do you select and choose and get the clarity who to hang out with? Gunam nadi kutram nadi avatrul migai nadi mikka kolal. Gunam means like good virtues, you see in that person. And then Kutramam Nadi, you see what is the flaws in that person. And then you compare and see which is more. And then you take the majority of it as that person's trait, and then based on that you have the friendship. Now, who has all the time to do all this? Right? Like I go to my office, just meeting a new person, or I am joining a new office. I don't have all these things, so I just hang out. But here is where we do fail to draw the ball. We don't what's it like? We drop the ball. We don't understand that friendship, why is it is forged? Do we have the relationship to go and tell our friend on their face that what they are doing is wrong? Or are we having an uncomfortable friendship that I don't know how to take the exit, but what this person is doing wrong? So that is where we most of the time do this kind of political dance. And then you see amongst your own friends that you see, I'm not saying that all, but there are quite a few people, they go and talk in a circle and they are talking about the friend who is not there. And then when the friend comes in, they change the entire topic and they are talking as if like that earlier conversation never happened. And then one amongst the guys go from this group. I'm talking about just the weekend parties that happen. I don't like them, I don't join, but I've seen that in front of my own eyes that people tend to talk bad about the person who just turned their back. That is not friendship at all. And these people hang out week after week, every weekend, and that is not even friendship. So we have such a facade and we call that friendship. So, what is the value of friendship and how do we look at friendship and how do we define friendship? What we need to do is we need to look at Ramayana and Mahabharata for inspiration and example. So, you have to see when Rama goes to the forest, he comes with the attitude Sarva Bhuta Hita. That means everyone or anything that is coming in contact, he is friendly to them. It doesn't matter who, what, when, how, he is friend with anyone and everyone. So this is coming from a very powerful place because there is no malice. There is no negativity. That's the gold standard, ultimate standard. Now this is the standard what not only Bhagavan follows, but all the rishis follow, all the great people follow. Now we may not be up to that level. So what we need to do is look at how Rama is interacting. Instead of looking at Ramayana, okay, I know this some story, like mythology. I hate the word mythology and people who call themselves mythologists almost with a passion, because these people openly, blatantly twist the idea of what was history, what we call as Itihasa, which means that which happened, and openly twist it and make it sound like it is a lie, because myth is rooted from the word mithya, which is a lie. And there are people who are like Devdutt Patnaik or Wendy Doniger, whose full-time job is to spread lies. And there are a lot of youngsters who fall for this kind of lies. And we don't understand the value of Ramayana or Mahabharata. So let's look at a few examples what Rama did to form friendships. We already saw that Rama did not differentiate between Manushya and Pashu. That is why we look at Rama forming a bond of friendship even with Jatayu. But we will not look at those characters. We are going to look at few of the examples, like say Guha. Guha was just a boatsman. He was the head of that community. He had a bunch of boats. That's all he had. But the friendship, and Rama stayed in Guha's place for only one night. Can you imagine? But that bond of friendship was so strong. It was so strong that it is absolutely amazing to see Guha's. The minute Rama saw him, he saw that level. So he immediately said, "You know what? I was born with three other brothers, but together banding with you, you are my fifth brother." What tells you that? Is it just because bhakti? No, it is because of his friendship that elevates Guha to bhakti. So it is said on the night when Rama was sleeping, Guha's friendship and love and affection and bhakti for Rama was such that he didn't trust anyone. He didn't trust even Lakshmana. Lakshmana, as usual, was standing there guard at night because he wanted to protect Rama at all costs. That was his self-appointed duty. Rama and Sita were sleeping in the hut, and then the Sita, who has never seen anything like that in her life, was sleeping on the ground. Rama has already seen. He went to Valmiki's ashram, Vishwamitra's ashram, and things like that. So Rama and Lakshmana were used. But Sita, now Lakshmana is guarding the hut. Now Guha doesn't trust Arjuna. In his back of his head, he is thinking, maybe, you know what? Just like that Bharata, who did the plot to eliminate Rama, because at this point no one knows that Bharata was not free from guilt. Everybody thought that Bharata and Kaikeyi banded together to do this. So he thought maybe since they could not kill Rama in the palace, they sent this assassin. So behind Lakshmana, this fellow is walking with and watching their leader, all the other chelas, all the other followers, they are also walking. This way, everybody is walking behind in a circle. Imagine this. All night. Almost like a comedy scene. When Rama leaves for Chitrakuta, Goa personally takes him across the river, whatever, and then comes back. When I think a month or so later, Bharata comes. He says, "Take me to Chitrakuta." In his mind, Bharata is so absorbed with the depression that Rama has left. How do I bring him back? All the thoughts were going. He doesn't even care for this Guha. Then Sumantra says, "This is the last known contact. This is the last person who saw Rama." So Guha said, before they wanted to see each other, Guha said, "Take all the boats into the water." Because Bharata was coming with a whole army. So his mind was, they are all coming after Rama to kill. Remember, even Lakshmana did that mistake. So did Guha. And then when they said, "No, this is not the evil intention," or whatever, he was wondering what is the point. And then there is this exchange of ideas. And Bharata knows that this is the person who served Rama. He starts melting down. And looking at Bharata's pure love for Rama, Guha also understands the heart of Bharata. But again, the point here is how Guha is so dedicated to Rama when he is around, when he is not there. And that relationship lasted, actual interaction lasted only one day. Not even one day. Basically from morning to night, and then next day morning they cross the river. That's all. That is the standard. Then we see Vali and Sugriva. This is the most important part of the Ramayana which we need to understand. Vali and Sugriva were at loggerheads, right? So when Kabanda, who was a Rakshasa who wanted to kill Rama and Lakshmana, when Rama and Lakshmana cut his hands and they followed his instructions what to do with his body, he took a divine form and he said he was a Gandharva, and he guided Rama and Lakshmana to go and find Sugriva, and the person who will give the last directions will be Shabari. So the idea is first go find Shabari, which is easier to find because Sugriva was in the hiding. Why was Sugriva hiding? Because we know the story. Vali and Sugriva were not seeing eye to eye, and Vali had wanted to kill Sugriva, and he has also taken his wife and made his concubine. Now, the interesting thing here is, first thing Rama comes and sees Shabari, then he goes and meets Sugriva. One of the first few things he says is like after they meet Hanuman takes them there, and then he says, okay, I am Sugriva, I am Rama. After that introduction, the first thing he says is, let's build a fire, let's make a pact, let's do Saptapati and seal our pact of friendship. Ooh. Where did we see that Saptapati? Husband, wife. At this point, let's take a quick detour and also say that when Yama took Satyavan's life, after walking 7 steps with Yama, Savitri declared that she was a friend of Yama and Yama was her friend. How? Again Saptapati. So we have to understand the importance of this ritual that all the married people from Hindu background would have undergone without even knowing the meaning. Right? We take 7 steps. That person is supposed to be a friend. As long as that other person is a dharmic person. Just because you walk with say Imran Khan doesn't mean that he will be your friend. Right? Now, back to our story where Rama wanted to form a bond of friendship with Sugriva. Why? What was the reasoning? Because Rama wanted to do that as the very first step. Now, Sugriva doesn't even know that Rama's strength and things like that. He gives a couple of tests to Rama after that. Then only he believes Rama and all. But before that, he forms friendship. First reason is Sugriva he had his own flaws, but Sugriva was on the side of Dharma. Rama always wanted to be on the side of Dharma. That is first thing. Second thing, Vali had a pact of friendship with Ravana. Many people don't remember this fact. Vali had a friendship pact with Ravana. When Ravana tried to attack Vali but got humiliated and defeated, Ravana offered the hand of friendship and had a mutual non-attack clause, and he also said that if I am going to be attacked, you should help me, and if you are attacked, I will help you. They had that agreement going on. So Vali and Sugriva are also related. So how do you protect Sugriva? But more importantly, how do you go and attack Ravana without breaking that bond of brotherhood? So he could have directly gone and attacked Vali and he could have killed him. He didn't do that. We are not analyzing Vali here, but the point here is Bhagavan said that I will be your friend, and Bhagavan said, Sugriva, I'll be your friend, and he formed a pact of friendship. And only that pact of friendship and brotherhood broke the equation with Vali and tilted it in the favor of Dharma. Now, the same Sugriva, after giving promise to Rama, he forgets. But Rama, when he sent Lakshmana with the message, go and tell that the same door which was opened for Vali to heaven is not closed. And then he knows, Lakshmana, he said, wait a minute. I retract that message, tone it down. Don't do any action. Because unlike Rama, who understood the friendship and the angle, Lakshmana is a man of action. To him, everything was Rama. If anything affects Rama, that's it. First act and then you think. That is his policy. So when it comes to friendship, first thing is you should be always focused on the welfare of the other person. Rama was interested in the welfare of Sugriva more than getting some reward from Sugriva or his army from Sugriva and then go and attack. Rama could have done everything single-handed too. But we have to understand that what is important is that we should not give up on a fallen friend as long as they are following Dharma. We will soon see the case of Duryodhana and Karna, which is the exact opposite of what we should not be. It is like two thieves banding together in doing adharma. Now, Sugriva's example also tells Rama was caught in a Dharma Sankata. Hey, should I kill Vali? Should I do all these things? He put himself in a bind. Rama was not compromising any Dharma, but to us, it looks like there is a conflict of Dharma. Rama did nothing to violate Dharma. He was upholding only Dharma at the highest order. But again, the important thing is, in a friendship, Dharma is the glue. Let's put that point firmly in our mind. Dharma is the glue, not just mere trust, not just mutual interest, but there is something much more deeper that guides that trust. That is Dharma. The other example that comes to our mind is Vibhishana. He is the brother of the person who kidnapped his wife. But when he came to surrender, everyone said no. This guy is from the opposite camp. Hanuman is the only one who has seen him. He says he supports Vibhishana. But Sugriva was totally against. Rama stopped, listened to all the leaders, and then he starts patiently educating Sugriva. He starts telling pigeon story. Imagine the mood. You are getting ready for war. You are ready to cross the island. You are wondering how to build the bridge or how to make the connection. And now is the time Rama is taking entire time to lecture. Rama is a man of few words. You won't find Rama speaking big talks. But in this point, Rama goes on telling all sorts of stories. He tells. So, what is the most important thing in friendship? You take time to remove the doubts. For who? For Sugriva. But at the same time, he also had a friendship with Vibhishana, that when he came for surrendering, he said, no, 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 you don't need to do surrender. And he raised him to the state of brotherhood and friendship. So in all this case, there is always a give and take. I don't know about you, but many times you may find some friends are always like they will come, keep taking, no give there. It may be materialistic things, it may be your time, it may be your other resources, or just your prana. Both Rama and in this case Guha, Sugriva and Vibhishana were mutually benefited by that bond. You can say, what did Guha do? Yeah, he was the one who took Rama across the river Ganga, which was impassable by foot. Sugriva, when Rama saved him from Vali, he was the one who gave everything. How do we know that who is respecting? Hanuman goes ahead of time to stop Bharata from jumping into the Yagakunda and saying that, you know what, Rama is coming. Wait, don't do this mistake. At that time, the Pushpaka Vimana comes. All people are getting introduced, important people. Hey, this is Vibhishana, this is Sugriva. Bharata is able to differentiate. Rama doesn't differentiate. Bharata differentiates. He knows the difference between Vibhishana's sacrifice and Sugriva's sacrifice. Sugriva sacrificed his life, his entire army, his time and everything for friendship. Vibhishana definitely did surrender, but what he offered was only limited. Now, they were coming from different circumstances, but what I am saying is the contributions made were evaluated by a third person. And in a relationship, it always has to be a give and take, not a give, or a take. Now let's look at Mahabharata, where we find a lot more examples of how to and how not to. First, let's look at a couple of not so good examples. Everybody knows the story of Drona and Drupada. Drona and Drupada were best buddies in an ashram, and one time Drupada said, hey, you know what, I will give you half the kingdom because you have been my best friend. Just like kids play, right? Like when they have toys, they say like, I will share mine with you, you will share yours with me, and that sort of thing. And then Drona got married to Kripi. He had Ashwatthama as his son. And then he was under extreme pressure, poverty. So he went to his friend and said, instead of saying, hello friend, can you give me something? Because he was a Brahmana, right? He had a maryada that he should have followed. He should have said, hey, can you give me some money or wealth? I bet Drupada would have given it. But Drona went and said, hey buddy, which part of my kingdom is my half? That is an insult to a king, right? And then what happened? He told Drupada said like, hey, what are you talking about? So Drona felt that Drupada was not living up to his promise, and these two part bitterly. Now what happened? Drona goes back and he starts tutoring all the Kauravas and Pandavas and others. Then as Guru Dakshana, he asks whoever is going to defeat and bring Drupada, not killing, defeating. First the Kauravas along with an army, one Akshauhini army, and they also take Karna, very important to remember this point. They all go and get beaten to pulp. They all come back. This is the Drupada before he had Drishtadyumna. You have to remember that. And then the Pandavas go and make him a prisoner, and Drona says, I will keep my half of the kingdom, you keep your half. Look at the humiliation, the so-called friend, and then he says, I am your friend, I part with you. This was the most illogical act of how not to treat a friend by Drona. If you want to say flaws of Drona, there are a couple of them. This will be one of them. The other one is like the way he kept quiet at Draupadi's Vastraharana, and also the way he opened blatantly to adharmic war at the fall of Bhishma on day 10. But anyway, he was nonetheless one of the greatest gurus. He was one of the guys who we in Dhanurvidya we don't find another equivalent to Drona. In the entire Itihasa Puranas we see we don't find another equivalent as a great guru who comes even half as equal to Drona. But when it came to friendship, Drona and Drupada, both of them miserably fail. Now Drupada goes back, nursing his defeat. He does a yaga and he gets Drishtadyumna and Draupadi, the first one to kill Drona and the second one to marry Arjuna. There you go. So if you don't keep that, even with the intimate friendship, if you don't keep that rivalry out, you keep that egos in check, you can turn into worst enemies if we don't keep that Dharma in the center. Again, the word Dharma, highlight Dharma. We also see normally people say, wow, Karna, Duryodhana, look at that great friendship. You have to understand when Karna became friend, although Karna studied in the same Gurukula with Drona. And then when Drona refused to teach him, what happens to Arjuna? He gets Brahmastra. And then Ashwatthama also goes and asks, he says, no, I'm not going to teach you, you need some more qualification. Karna also goes and asks, since it was rejected, he goes to, Karna went to Parasurama, tricked him and got Brahmastra. So there is a situation when the Pandavas are exhibiting and the Kauravas are exhibiting their skills. The Pandavas seem to be dominating. Karna comes and wants to show his skills and say that I can be better than all of these guys. Since Duryodhana's side was getting beaten up, so he wanted to urgently form a pact of friendship. He gave what was not even his rightful property, and he formed a bond of friendship urgently. But this Karna was not interested in having a the interest of Duryodhana at heart. He was only interested in taking care of the desires of Duryodhana. Let's quickly jump to Ramayana and come back here, because we want to understand this element. So Ravana had a half a dozen ministers, like people like Maricha, Prahasta, Mahodara, and so many other people whom he called them as ministers, but they were basically his friends. They were the bully circle. They will go around wherever they want to go and fight, they will go and fight. They will go and create the racket, and then Ravana will come and conquer that place or come and. They were basically leveling the field for. And these people were only interested in taking care of Ravana's desires. They never were focused on Ravana's interests. The interesting thing what happens when Kumbhakarna wakes up, Mahodara, one of the surviving ministers, he comes and says, hey, you know what, I come with a plan. Let's come, 4 of these asuras, he names them, and he says, we 4 will join you, Kumbhakarna. He was afraid to go on his own. Kumbhakarna immediately understood that. We will go and we will announce that we are going to take down Rama. And if we win, we will show the body of Rama and we will convince Sita to marry Ravana. If we are going to be defeated, we will come back with the arrows of Rama, right? And we will come and pull those arrows and declare that we have got victory. We will declare and have a celebration, and he even calls that we will have a feast. In that feast, we will bring Sita and tell that, look, these are the arrows we defeated. Rama sent us, but we are victorious. So Sita will be forced to marry Ravana. This is at the time just before Kumbhakarna is entering the war. So after that, not many pages left in the war. Indrajit and then our Ravana. But here is what we need to understand. This kind of sycophancy, this kind of bootlicking is what Ravana had for his friend circle. That is the same type of friend circle that Karna was providing along with Shakuni and Dushasana in their elite club. This Karna was definitely playing second fiddle for the burning incident at Lakshagraha. He was the one who instigated and abused Draupadi because he was probably nursing his wound that Draupadi said, I will not marry you. So he said, you are a prostitute. That's what he said to Draupadi. One who marries 5 people is a prostitute. That's what he said to a pativrata. And this is the man who in India, lot of idiotic people raise and say that Karna is the great person who gives for charity. Now, we should understand that Karna did do charity, but he was not the greatest. Karna did have a lot of fights, but we should not mix it up with where his values were. Karna and Duryodhana had mutual trust. In fact, Duryodhana was captured by a Gandharva, Chitrasena, and Karna was routed along with the Kaurava army because Duryodhana's bad heart wanted to go and see how badly the Pandavas are suffering. It was Arjuna who came single-handedly and defeated. Though all these things happened, it did not dent the image of Karna in the mind of Duryodhana. Because Karna goes and does some things, like he goes on all over India and defeats all the kings and brings a lot of wealth and gives it to Dhritarashtra and proves that he is a great friend, he is worthy of that friendship. See, the thing is that when it comes to Karna, he has a lot of plus, But let's not forget that devoid of Dharma, that friendship doesn't have any legs. You never go and look at Mahabharata and say, I want to have a friend like Karna and Duryodhana. No. Hopefully you don't say that. Then you have not read the Mahabharata properly. Because what happens when Duryodhana entered the war based on the strength not of Bhishma, not of Drona, he didn't expect they will be killed. He thought Karna alone is sufficient to defeat Arjuna and the entire Pandavas. Again, the problem is Duryodhana always discounted the fact that there is a factor beyond mere self-exertion. Here the self is the individual, not the Atman. So friendship has to be rooted in what? Has to be rooted in Dharma. Friendship has to be the moral compass. It has to be the conscience of the other friend, that when something wrong is happening, you should be the one saying that. But here, the entire Draupadi Vastrahara case was instigated by the so-called best friend Karna. If Karna never said that, Duryodhana would have never sent Dushasana to bring Draupadi to disrobe her. Can most of us fast forward that particular aspect of Mahabharata? So what is the value of friends? Who should you be friends like? We are going to see two examples. One is Sudama and Krishna. Many times the TV version of displaying people like Narada, Sudama, is all like a joke. It's all like a caricature. They show him like he has like so many children and out of poverty he wanted to go. No, nothing of that sort is given. I studied Mahabharata, I studied Bhagavatam. I could not find any instance where he had so many children. Here is a Bhakta who had only 2 months contact. Remember, Krishna went to Sandipani ashram. Every day he mastered one art. And half the time he was only grazing cows and things like that, doing the chores. But in that time itself he mastered that. Because he just went to the ashram only to have a pretext of a guru. He knew, he was Bhagavan, so he knew everything. But even there he shows us the example that we have to respect a guru. For showing that example, he goes to Sandipani ashram. There in the 2 months or 2.5 months he stays, that is the duration of his association with Sudama. After that, Sudama has not seen Krishna in his life. Till his wife, who keeps burning under the poverty, one day she said, you always say that you have a great friend. You say that this great friend is the Lord of Dwaraka. Why don't you go and meet him? Why don't you get something? He said, no, I can't go and disturb my friend. What are you talking? But then she understood his heart and she said, like, why don't you go and meet him in person? You have not met him in a long time. Don't you feel that? Now Sudama said, yeah, I will go and meet him. So for her sake, he gets so she borrows some poha from neighbors and she ripped the end of the sari, the only sari she had. So she made a small potli, and that potli she made put this poha and gave it to him. So where is our friend Sudama? He is in Ujjain, which is in Madhya Pradesh. Where is Krishna? In Dwaraka, Gujarat. How far it is? Real far by walk. So he, as soon as Krishna saw, he was in the what, in Indian thing, you have the ground floor, you have the first floor, right? So in the Western world, you say the first floor or in the second floor, whichever way you look. He was one level above. So he heard somebody was trying to come. The soldiers were all, any Brahmana could have free access to Krishna. There is no this thing. So from a distance, Krishna saw. So he jumped from the first floor to down, started running towards Sudama, and starts shedding tears as he hugged his friend. And all Sudama was coming all along was to see his friend. Picture this. Just for a second, picture this. Paramatma is rushing towards his Parama Bhakta, and both are in tears. There is no communication, there is only tears of joy, and that is real friendship, and that is real communication. Now, he brings Sudama, he knows Sudama is in extreme poverty. He brings him, he gives him Argya. As soon as he comes, he gives him Argya, Padya, and then he gives a dana of one cow. That's all he gives. And then he is washing the feet of Sudama like nobody else. And then he is massaging it. Seeing that, Rukmini understood this person is not a normal person. Who is Krishna going to touch the feet and do the massage? They all joined. All the wives of Krishna have not seen Krishna do this. So they all voluntarily join, almost like in competition, to take care of Sudama's needs, serve food, whatever. And that is the beauty. And Sudama is so, he is not even wanting to give that poha and insult Krishna, so he is not even giving. But Krishna, obviously, he knows, he took it and gives him all the blessings and whatnot. We are not analyzing Sudama's story here, but we are just saying that how mutually two friends, you don't want to make your friend a garbage dump with a hairy lid and dump all your problems. That was what Sudama was thinking. What Krishna is showing is, hey, I know everything, my friend. I know what you think and what you don't think. I know your full situation because I am connected to you at heart. So, two wonderful values about friendship we can learn. We are going to see a couple more stories and then we are going to close this. The penultimate story is, we talk about another friend. Okay. Actually, we are going to see a couple more stories and then we will end. So the other story we are going to talk about is Arjuna and Krishna. Krishna gives, when we see friendship, we look at Arjuna and Krishna, nobody else. We see nobody else who share that kind of, because you can say they are Narayana, that is okay. They are two forms of the same, that is okay. But nonetheless, the definition of friendship is, the picture of friendship is Arjuna and Krishna. When there was a Kandava Dahana Parva, where the Kandava Vana was burnt by Arjuna and Krishna. That is where Arjuna gets his Gandiva, Krishna gets his Chakra, and together they consume the Vana with fire because Agni Bhagavan wanted that. Then Indra comes to fight, and at the end of that fight, because he has to give blessings to both Krishna and Arjuna. So he asks his son, "What do you want, Arjuna?" Arjuna goes first. You know what? I want all your weapons, all the astras of all the devas. Why don't you give me all those things? Indra says, "Okay, in due time we will get you those weapons. You have to first get the unlock the blessing from Maheshwara, which he does later in the Vanaparva. He goes and does tapasya for Shiva and he gets that and then he gets all the other weapons. But here is where Krishna says, hey, you know what I want as a blessing from you, Indra? May my friendship with Arjuna last an eternity. May the bond always keep growing. Now you have to understand here, Indra is acting like he is a big lord. Obviously he is. The same Indra had a tiff with young Krishna when he was 7 years old, when he made him lift the Govardhana Parvata. His ego was blunted back then. Then why is he coming and giving the blessing? Because this blessing is like, because he is now like Indradev, and then Krishna is like, hey, I am a normal Krishna, I don't want to do that, reveal my real nature, right? So he is giving what blessing you want. So he says, Bhagavan is saying, Paramatma is saying that he wants to be the eternal friend of the Jivatma. Why? Because that Jivatma is committed to be on the path of Dharma. Who is that? Arjuna. So the message for you and me is Dharma is the glue for real friendship. So he says in Bhagavad Gita, Bhaktosi me sakacheti. Amongst the bhaktas, I am you. And in Pandavas, he also says that he is Arjuna in Vibhuti Yoga. Now, we also see there is another one. Look at the beauty of Arjuna. After getting all Bhagavad Gita, he totally forgot about it. He didn't even follow one bit. He should not have been crying when Abhimanyu died, right? But he took one vow that he will kill Jayadratha by the next day. Without asking Krishna. Did he ask Krishna? He was right there. He could have asked him. He didn't. So Arjuna does so many mistakes. He doesn't know how to fight Bhishma. He half-heartedly fights him and all sorts of things. The best part is at the end of all the war, after a long time, the Pandavas are ruling Hastinapura. One day Arjuna goes to Dwaraka and he says, Krishna, I forgot everything what you said. You know, something like Gita you told, like, remember, Bhagavan showed his Vishwarupa Darshana also. And who is this? This is Arjuna, who pleases Bhagavan Shankara to virtually come, and Bhagavan Shankara wants to have a fight with Arjuna. Imagine that. Such a great guy with such great focus, concentration, whatnot. This fellow says, I completely forgot Gita. Can you give me a recap? Krishna gives him Anugita. Can you imagine that? So, Bhagavan, when it comes to friendship, there is an interesting aspect of friendship that Bhagavan is there. There is one more friend Bhagavan has throughout his life, and these friends are not in competition. They all love Krishna, Krishna loves them all, and they all know about each other. There is no competition. You can't be only best friends with only one person. You can have more. That's what we also learn from this. And his name is Uddhava. And we have Uddhava Gita thanks to him. If you think Bhagavad Gita is very powerful, The Uddhava Gita is next level almost, because it talks only about, in Bhagavad Gita, the focus is on karma, if you want to say that. But in Uddhava Gita, the focus is on renunciation, because Bhagavan is renouncing the entire world, everyone. Now we saw these wonderful friends because of their values and what they do. Then what we have been also emphasizing about Dharma. So let us understand what is the focus here. We'll look at a small parable. There was a guy in a village, and one day he got a message. But before he got that message from the king, in the village he had few friends. There was one friend whom he considered his closest best buddy. Then second, another person was there. He called himself like, okay, if the first guy is not there, this is like a stand-in friend. He was friendly with them. And then there was a third person who considered this fellow as the friend. But he could not say, he didn't have any attitude to this. He said like, okay, chalta hai. Chalo, you want to be a chela, you want to be a friend, okay, fine, chalta hai. He tolerated him, he didn't be a friend. The message the guy got from the king was, you have been doing some shady activities. Why don't you come to the palace and explain yourself? Now the guy did not have any choice, but he had to go. But so he thought, I have never been to the king's place, and the king is known to be a bit cuckoo, who basically cuts their head and then listens to the explanation, that kind of person. So he went to his best friend and said, can you come with me to the palace? The best friend said, the whole life this person has spent with that friend. And he said, sorry buddy, you should not be calling me to these kind of places. I can't come there and I won't come with you. Sorry, bye. And he just went away coldly. Now confused, he went to the second person, thinking that at least this person who has been hanging out with him for such a long time will come. This person said, okay, I will come, but I will come only to the front gates of the fort. Once you enter the fort, you are on your own. There are many levels. Then you go to the palace, and then you go to the king's palace, and you are on your own. You talk to the king. I don't care. Now this fellow was in a shock. He said, like, all my life I spent with these two guys, and they both deserted me. He didn't know what to do, and he was feeling so out of options, in fear. What to do? At that time, the third friend came from nowhere and he said, hey, I heard the news. This is what I'm going to tell. I will vouch for your character. You don't even have to come. I will go to the palace and I will talk to the king and I will convince him that you are a nice guy and he should not do anything bad to you. So this is a parable. What does it say? The thing which we considered as our best friends, what are they? Our status, money, relatives, all sorts of things which we consider as the most important things, and they don't come to the rescue at all. The first sign of problem, they run away. Then who is the second friend? The second friend is our spouse and maybe children. They can come to the gates of what? Cemetery. crematorium. And then after that you are on your own, because these are friends with only the body, and they can come and they can go. Who is your third friend? The one who really stands for you. That is Dharma. All your good karma, what you and I have done in protecting Dharma, that is the one that goes to the fort. What is that fort? The palace of Bhagavan. And it says, I will go and talk to the king and protect you and talk about you. And that is the only thing that will come along with us. So if you and I need to have good friendship, what is the number one criteria we need to hold on to? It is Dharma. Otherwise, you will not have the strength and courage to tell the other person if they do something that is adharmic. Worst yet, you will also end up becoming adharmic. So what is your buffer? You build all your friendship and foundation based on Dharma. Now bring it this equation again to, remember what was the first thing we spoke of? Husband and wife equation. Because all of us are going to, if at all there is one person most of us will be spending long time with, it is going to be our spouse. So we have to make sure that Dharma is the foundation here also, and then only we can have that kind of friendly relationship with even our spouse, or with someone at office, or with someone wherever we go. So the foundation of friendship is Dharma. Whenever the Dharma is not protected, no matter how much ever we put into that relationship of friendship, it will only be superficial, like Drupada and Drona, like Duryodhana and Karna. So we have taken our time to just walk through a few characters to understand what is the nature of friendship. Friendship is not just hanging out, eating dinners, having party together. Friendship is rooted in Dharma, in the best interests of each other. There is an element of selflessness. There is an element of people coming from different directions. But to have that friendship, first we need to be the one that extends that friendship. Instead of waiting for the other person to be the one to start that relationship. Look at Rama. He was the first one to go and tell Guha that you and I are friends and brothers. He was the first one to talk to Sugriva. He was the one who hunted and searched Sugriva. Finding Sugriva was not easy because even Vali could not find him. But Rama found him. Right? So the focus as always has to be that on Dharma. Then what happens? The relationship will not be based on the ego or the actions involved, but we will have friendship as a transforming experience. So we have to work on it. Both of us have to work on it. And whoever we are going to be friends with, whatever we do with our character, that is going to determine the nature of friendship, the outcome of friendship, the duration of friendship. With that, friends, I enjoyed sharing a few thoughts about friendship. May you all have wonderful friends in your life to have an elevated experience, to taste that wonderful relationship called friendship. With that prayer, let's conclude today's session. Jai Shri Ram. And wish you all a wonderful Mahashivaratri. And that is coming up in a day or two. May you all have that wonderful quality of Bhagavan Shankara. What is real friendship is again the quality we learn from Shankara. We all know that Bhagavan Shiva took the Alahala Visha and swallowed it to save all the living beings in the universe. Now, how did Shiva handle that Visha is the lesson for all of us. When bad things happen to us, if it goes inside us, it kills us. If we let it outly outside, it hurts others. But Shiva took it and handled it in such a way that it didn't affect him, it didn't affect outside, and it did not change his reaction to others. So, with that wonderful thought about Bhagavan Shankara, may we also be beneficial to everyone and everything. When we transform ourselves to Sarva Bhuta Hita, for the well being of everyone, we all will find wonderful friends. And may Bhagavan bless us with nice, good friendship. Once again, Jai Shri Ram.